As the global education systems battle with the disruptions occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, distance, online, and blended learning have been identified as positive responses to provide more resilient education systems, especially at the higher level of education. However, this comes with a lot of design issues that should be considered while you are adopting these learning modes, particularly in the area of developing quality self-learning materials. Hello everyone, my name is Lukman Bello, and in this video we are going to examine the key elements of instructional design in distance, online, and blended learning modes. This is expected to equip you with the skills and competencies to design and develop quality self-learning materials to engage learners, especially those who learn at a distance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, let us quickly examine these key elements of instructional design in distance, online, and blended learning environments. One important fact that we must all understand is that the success of online and blended learning depends largely on the quality of the content. Remember, learners in online learning environments are physically and psychologically separated from their tutors, unlike the face-to-face instructional setting where you can sit down in the classroom with your learner. So, in order to bridge this transactional distance within the system, there is a need to consider the key elements that will help you structure your online content appropriately to engage your learners. This is where the issue of instructional design comes in when we talk about distance, online, and blended learning. And what do we call instructional design? Basically, instructional design is the systematic approach to plan, organize, and deliver the instructional content in such a way that will meet the learning needs of your learners. So, instructional design is the entire process of learners' analysis and content, setting acceptable learning outcomes, selecting learning activities and exercises, and the development of a delivery system to meet the learning outcomes. And this is quite important, even in the traditional face-to-face setting. Okay, we emphasize in the traditional face-to-face setting that there is a need to give priority to instructional design of the content. However, it is much more important in distance, online, and blended learning setting due to the separation between the learners and their tutors. Because you should know that in the absence of a teacher in the classroom, your learners largely rely on the content that you are writing. And the way you structure and organize it determines their learning experience. Some of these key elements that we are going to examine in this video include learners' analysis, learning outcomes, chunking of the content, learning activities and exercises, and interactivity. Now, let us consider some of these elements, and we are going to start with learners' analysis. Now, in an online learning environment, your learners are more diverse than what is obtainable in the conventional setting. Okay, your learners come from diverse backgrounds than the kind of learners that you have in the face-to-face instructional setting. So, the first thing you need to do while you are designing the content is to consider their characteristics. These characteristics may include their age, the gender, socioeconomic status, ethnic nationalities, learning styles, among others. Because you should understand that it will be quite difficult for you to design content for your learners if you don't know anything about them. Now, another key element is learning outcomes. This is a strategic element in instructional design as it affects other key elements. Now, for instance, the learning outcome determines how you chunk your content, how you set your learning activities, how you select media, and even how you evaluate your lesson depends on the learning outcomes. It is such a critical element as I earlier mentioned, and I will discuss more about this in our live class and in my subsequent videos as well. So before we go further, quickly attend to this class activity. Now you're welcome back. Let us quickly go to another element of instructional design, which is chunking of the content. You should understand that distance and online learners have many tasks competing for their attention. So It will make life easier for them when you properly break down the content into digestible formats. This is the focus of the cognitive learning theory in online and blended learning, because the theory emphasizes that human brains will be able to process instructional content when it is logically broken down into small chunks. These chunks should be logically connected to make them easy for human brain to process. The next key elements of instructional design we are going to examine is learning activities and exercises. Now, whether you are designing course material for blended learning or a complete online content to be hosted on the learning management system, you need to consider the activities that are embedded in the content. These include self-assessment exercises, in-text questions, video links, case study, scenario, among others. These activities and exercises should be aligned with the learning outcomes. That is quite important. Now you are setting up your exercises, you are setting up your activities within the content that you are designing based on the learning outcomes. Okay, and I'm sure we are going to talk more about this in our live class as well. Now, the last key element of instructional design that we are going to examine is interactivity. Okay, you see, you need to guide your students to interact with the learning resources embedded in the content. Remember, I mentioned earlier that you will not be there when your students are interacting with the content. So you need to properly guide them. You need to properly guide the students so that even without your presence there, they will be able to interact with the content. They will be motivated to interact with the content. Interactivity promotes engagement. So ensure that all the media elements in the content work together to engage learners. This indicates that images, pictures, video links, and other resources should be used in such a way that will promote interactivity within the content. For instance, if you want to embed a picture or a video link within a self-learning material, there's a need to make reference to that picture within the text. What we are saying is that, see the way I have embedded a picture here. Sometimes you see people writing content and students will just come about a picture, okay, without being guided on exactly what the picture is all about. So it's a way of guiding your students to know what this picture is all about. Remember, I have indicated here that this picture here is talking about a particular thing in the text. So when students come about this picture, they've already been guided that there is a picture that talks more about a particular concept I'm discussing here. So this is a way to embed your picture in a self-learning material or in a text in such a way that will promote interactivity, and students will be able to interact with the content more than just to put it there. Okay, that's why I'm saying here that no media element should be a standalone within the text. So in summary, we have discussed the concept of instructional design and the key elements of instructional design. So as you are building your content for online and blended learning modes, I would like you to reflect on these elements and ensure that the online content is properly and logically structured to engage learners at a distance. Thank you for watching. See you next time.